Chapter 1. The Call and the Mirror. The Burden of Sacred Solitude, Chosen One. If you are reading these words, you already know the weight of being different in a world that worships sameness. You have felt the peculiar isolation that comes not from lack of connection, but from depth of perception. While others navigate life through the surfaces, through trends, transactions, and temporary validations, you have been forced to dwell in the underground rivers of meaning. This is not choice, this is fate. And fate, as Jung understood, is the trajectory of the soul asserting itself against the collective's demand for conformity. You were the child who asked questions that made adults uncomfortable. You were the friend who sensed the unspoken tensions in every room. You learned early that your sensitivity was not celebrated, it was pathologized. Too much, they said, too intense, too serious. And so you learned to hide. Not your body, but your essence. You constructed a persona, that social mask Jung described, not to deceive, but to survive. You smiled when you were dying inside. You nodded when you disagreed. You became fluent in the language of shallow belonging, while your soul starved for authentic recognition. But here is what the collective does not understand. Your isolation was initiation. Your invisibility was not rejection. It was preparation for a calling so specific, so archetypal, that it required you to be separated from the herd. The hero's journey, which Joseph Campbell mapped and Jung psychologically decoded, always begins with the departure from the known world. You did not leave by choice. You were exiled by your own depth, and in that exile, in those years of being overlooked and underestimated, the self was forging you in darkness. The modern American spiritual landscape is cluttered with surface-level positivity, with manifestation techniques that bypass the shadow, with promises of instant transformation. But you know better. You have lived through the nigredo, the blackening, the alchemical death that precedes all true rebirth. You have descended into your personal underworld not once, but cyclically. Each descent stripped away another illusion, the illusion of control, the illusion of being loved for performance, the illusion that your worth could be measured by external metrics. And each time you emerged, you were more whole, not because you gained something, but because you lost everything false. This is why I mapped out a practical framework for souls like yours, the 3 keys to a prosperous life. It is not another theoretical abstraction. It is a trilogy, ebook and audiobook, designed specifically for chosen ones, navigating the collision between spiritual awakening and material reality. Because here is the paradox no one prepares you for. The same consciousness that makes you empathic and aware also makes you vulnerable to guilt around receiving abundance. The blueprint I left in this resource addresses that exact wound, the unconscious belief that your prosperity somehow diminishes others. The link is in the pinned comment below, not as marketing, but as a map for those who recognize they cannot integrate wealth until they heal their relationship with deserving it. Now, let us return to the uncomfortable truth about your awakening. The symptoms are not random. The exhaustion you feel is not weakness, it is psychic overload. You are processing not only your own emotional material, but the unconscious projections of everyone around you. Jung called this participation mystique, the merging of psyches that occurs when boundaries are weak. Empaths and chosen ones often lack the psychological infrastructure to differentiate between my feeling and their feeling. You walk into a room and absorb its emotional weather. You listen to a friend's story and carry their pain for days. You witness injustice on your screen and feel it as personal violation. This is because your nervous system is wired for collective sensitivity. In tribal times, this was the shaman's gift, the ability to feel the group's dis-ease before it manifested as crisis. But in modern America, where overstimulation is constant and emotional literacy is rare, This gift becomes torment. You are a radio receiver tuned to frequencies most people are deaf to, and the signal never stops. The anxiety, the exhaustion, the sense of being perpetually overwhelmed, these are not personal failures. They are the natural consequence of a sensitive instrument placed in a chaotic environment. But here is where Jung's teaching becomes liberating. Awareness is the first stage of transformation. You cannot integrate what you cannot see. By recognizing that your suffering is not pathology, but initiation, you reclaim power. You stop pathologizing your sensitivity and start honoring it as the very mechanism through which the self is individuating you from the collective. The pain is not the problem. The unconsciousness was the problem. And you are no longer unconscious. The mirror you have been avoiding is this: you are different because you are meant to be different. Your soul did not incarnate to blend in. It incarnated to break patterns, ancestral, cultural, archetypal patterns that keep humanity trapped in unconscious repetition. This is why your family often does not understand you. They are living out inherited scripts, playing roles assigned by the collective unconscious. But you, chosen one, you are the one who stops, who questions, who refuses to perpetuate the dysfunction. This makes you dangerous to the status quo. It also makes you essential to the evolution of consciousness. Chapter 2. The shadow work and resistance. The guilt of power now. We descend into the psychological underworld where most spiritual teachings fear to tread. This is the realm of the shadow, that aspect of the psyche Jung described as containing everything we have repressed, denied, and exiled from conscious awareness. For chosen ones, the shadow does not primarily contain rage or lust or cruelty, though those exist. Your shadow contains something far more dangerous: your power. You have spent lifetimes, and certainly this lifetime, learning to make yourself small, not physically small, but energetically diminished. You learned that when you shined too brightly, others dimmed you with criticism. When you spoke your truth too directly, you were punished with rejection. When you succeeded too visibly, you were met with envy disguised as concern. And so, like a plant growing in darkness, you contorted yourself to fit into spaces too narrow for your soul. This contortion became unconscious. You no longer remember choosing smallness. It simply feels like who you are. But Jung would say, that is not who you are. That is the persona you constructed to survive a world hostile to authentic power. And now, as wealth and recognition approach, that persona is cracking. The self, your true, whole, individuated nature, is demanding emergence. But the ego, terrified of change, activates every defense mechanism to keep you contained. This is why, even as opportunities arrive, you sabotage them, not consciously, but through hesitation, through doubt, through the sudden onset of illness or crisis right before breakthrough. This is not bad luck. This is the shadow fighting to maintain the familiar. Let me be precise about how this manifests. You receive an opportunity, a financial windfall, a creative recognition, a relationship that mirrors your worth. And immediately the internal voices begin. I don't deserve this. I didn't work hard enough. Others need it more. What if I fail? What if I succeed and people hate me? These are not your thoughts. They are the voices of every authority figure, every wounded parent, every jealous peer who could not tolerate your light. You have internalized their judgment and made it your own. In Jungian terms, you have introjected the collective sphere of power and are now policing yourself on their behalf. This is the psychological mechanism of imposter syndrome. Not a lack of competence, but the ego's terror of stepping into the archetypal energy of the magician or the sovereign. These archetypes represent mastery, authority, the ability to shape reality through will and skill. When you step into them, you are no longer a victim. You are no longer safe in your smallness. You become responsible for your gifts, your impact, your legacy. And responsibility, chosen one, is what the wounded ego fears most. Because responsibility means you can no longer blame your parents, your circumstances, your trauma for your stagnation. You must act. You must become. The guilt around receiving abundance is particularly insidious for empaths. You have been conditioned to believe that your worth is tied to your usefulness to others. If you are not suffering, not sacrificing, not giving endlessly, then you are selfish. This is a survival strategy inherited from childhood, where love was conditional on your performance of caretaking. But Jung would diagnose this as a neurotic complex, an autonomous fragment of the psyche that hijacks your behavior whenever abundance approaches. Here is the deeper truth. Your guilt around prosperity is not spiritual. It is psychological. It is the wounded child within you who learned that having more than others resulted in punishment. Perhaps you had a sibling who resented your achievements. Perhaps you had a parent who guilted you for your needs. Perhaps you absorbed the cultural message that poverty is noble and wealth is corrupt. Whatever the origin, the complex now operates automatically. Wealth approaches and the guilt activates, and you unconsciously push it away through procrastination, through self-sabotage, through sudden emergencies that drain your resources. But let us go deeper still. There is a part of you that knows if you fully claim your power and prosperity, you will lose people. This is not paranoia. This is pattern recognition. You have already experienced relationships ending when you outgrew them. You have already felt the coldness that descends when you stop playing small to make others comfortable. And so the shadow whispers, stay safe, stay broke, stay small, at least you will be loved. But Jung would ask, is it love if it requires your diminishment? Or is it projection? Others needing you to remain weak so they do not have to confront their own potential. The resistance you feel is not enemy, it is information. It is the psyche's way of saying, you are at a threshold, cross it, and everything changes. Your identity, your relationships, your daily reality. Are you ready? And the answer, chosen one, is not a confident yes. The answer is a trembling willingness. You do not need to feel ready. You need to feel the fear and individuate anyway. Jung taught that neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering. What does this mean? It means that when you avoid the necessary pain of growth, the pain of disappointing others, of outgrowing relationships, of claiming your power, the psyche creates substitute suffering. Depression, anxiety, chronic illness, financial crises. These are not random. They are the psyche's attempt to keep you engaged in suffering without requiring you to change. The unconscious logic is, if I am suffering, I do not have to act. I can remain passive and blameless. But legitimate suffering, the suffering of individuation, demands action. It demands that you step into the unknown, endure the discomfort of transformation, and emerge as someone your old self would not recognize. This is why wealth approaching activates terror, not just excitement. Because wealth is not just money, it is energy, it is possibility, it is the fuel that will power your next phase of becoming. And becoming requires the death of who you were. The ego clings to the known self, even if that self is miserable, because at least it is familiar. The self, however, is ruthless in its demand for wholeness. It will dismantle every false structure, every limiting belief, every toxic relationship that keeps you from embodying your full capacity. The shadow of wealth contains your fear of visibility. When you were invisible, you were safe. No one envied you. No one projected onto you. No one expected anything. But wealth makes you visible. Suddenly, you are seen. And with visibility comes projection. People will make you the savior, the tyrant, the trickster in their internal drama. They will expect you to rescue them, to validate them, to remain the same person you were when you had nothing. And when you refuse to play those roles, when you set boundaries, when you prioritize your own growth, they will call you selfish, cold, changed. They will not see that you have not changed. You have simply become more yourself. This is the psychological crucifixion of the chosen one. You are damned if you do, damned if you do not. If you claim your power, you are arrogant. If you hide it, you are a fraud. If you give generously, you are enabling. If you set boundaries, you are heartless. The collective cannot tolerate your wholeness because your wholeness exposes their fragmentation. And so the shadow whispers, "See, this is why you should stay small. It is easier." But Jung would say, easier is not truer. And your soul did not incarnate for ease. It incarnated for individuation. The only way through is through. You cannot bypass the shadow. You cannot meditate it away or affirm it into submission. You must face it. You must sit with the guilt, the fear, the grief of outgrowing who you were. You must allow the old identity to die without rushing to construct a new one. This is the alchemical solve, the dissolution phase where everything solid becomes liquid, where certainty becomes confusion, where the known self liquefies so that a truer self can crystallize. And in this dissolution, chosen one, silence is not weakness. Silence is the container. Silence is how you prevent energy from leaking while the transformation completes. When you speak too soon about your elevation, you break the alchemical seal. You invite projections, expectations, envies that disrupt the process. But when you stay silent, you honor the sacredness of the work occurring within you. You trust that the self knows the timing. You trust that visibility will come not when you demand it, but when you are psychologically prepared to hold it without inflation or collapse. Chapter 3: Synchronicities and the Language of the Universe. When reality speaks, chosen one, you have been noticing the signs. The repeating numbers 11, 11, 3, 33, 5, 55 that arrest your attention at uncanny moments. The chance encounters that feel anything but chance. The dreams that predict events before they occur. The sudden intuitions that prove accurate despite contradicting logic. These are not delusions. They are not wishful thinking. They are synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that Jung described as the collision of psyche and matter, inner and outer, the timeless and the temporal. Most people live entirely in the causal world. For them, reality is linear. A cause is B, B causes C, and meaning is constructed, not discovered. But you, chosen one, have always sensed a deeper order. You have felt the invisible threads connecting seemingly unrelated events. You have known, without knowing how you know, that certain people were destined to enter your life. You have experienced moments where the boundary between inner vision and outer manifestation dissolved, where what you imagined appeared in physical form with eerie precision. This is because you are wired to perceive synchronicity. Your psyche is not sealed off from the world. It is porous, permeable, in constant subtle dialogue with the collective unconscious and the archetypal realm. Jung discovered that when an individual undergoes intense psychological transformation, the rate of synchronicities increases exponentially. Why? Because the psyche, in its movement toward wholeness, begins to attract and create conditions in the outer world that mirror and support the inner process. You are not manifesting in the New Age sense of thoughts create reality. You are individuating, and individuation reorganizes not just your inner world, but your relationship to the outer world. Let me be precise about the mechanics. When you were fragmented, when the ego and the self were split, when shadow material was repressed, when archetypal energies were unconscious, your life reflected that chaos. Relationships were dramatic, finances were unstable. Opportunities arrived and vanished without clear reason. This was not bad luck. This was the outer world mirroring your inner disintegration. But as you have done the work, as you have integrated shadow, confronted complexes, dialogued with the unconscious through dreams and active imagination, the psyche has begun to cohere. And as the psyche coheres, synchronicities multiply. You began seeing the repeating numbers when you started awakening. At first, you dismissed them. Confirmation bias, you told yourself. Pattern recognition run amok. But then the numbers appeared in contexts too specific to ignore. On receipts at moments of financial decision, on clocks at moments of doubt, on license plates when you asked for a sign. And you realized something is communicating. Not a deity separate from you, but the self, the totality of your being, conscious and unconscious, using the only language available in a materialist culture. Symbols, patterns, numbers. Jung called numbers archetypal. They are not human inventions. They are structures inherent in reality itself, perceived by consciousness, but existing prior to it. The number 3, for example, appears across cultures as the symbol of synthesis, thesis, antithesis, synthesis, mother, father, child, past, present, future. The number 4 represents wholeness, the quaternity, the 4 elements, the 4 directions, the 4 functions of consciousness. When these numbers repeat in your experience, they are not random. They are the archetypal layer of reality announcing its presence, reminding you that you are not alone, that the process you are undergoing is cosmic, not merely personal. But the truth about these symbols is even more disturbing than comfort. Because if reality is speaking, then reality is alive. Not metaphorically alive, but psychophysically alive, in a way that collapses the Cartesian divide between mind and matter. Jung, toward the end of his life, proposed that synchronicity suggests a psychoid realm, a dimension where psyche and matter are not yet differentiated, where consciousness and materiality emerge from a common source. This is why, when you are in deep alignment with the self, the outer world seems to conspire in your favor, not because you are controlling it, but because you are participating in a deeper order that transcends ego causation. Consider the relationships that have entered your life recently. Not all of them, but certain ones. The mentor, who appeared exactly when you needed guidance, the friend who understood your journey without explanation, the stranger who spoke a sentence that answered a question you had been holding for months. These were not accidents. These were synchronistic encounters, orchestrated not by fate in the deterministic sense, but by the self's magnetic pull toward experiences and people that serve your individuation. Yet here is where most people, even spiritually aware people, misunderstand synchronicity. They treat it as wish fulfillment. They ask the universe for a sign, receive something ambiguous, and interpret it to fit their desires. But true synchronicity in Jung's framework is not about getting what you want. It is about encountering what you need for the next stage of transformation. Sometimes the synchronicity is blessing, the unexpected check, the sudden opportunity. But sometimes the synchronicity is ordeal, the relationship that ends abruptly, the project that collapses, the health crisis that forces rest. You have experienced both. You have had moments where doors opened that you did not even know you were approaching. And you have had moments where doors slammed shut in your face, despite your best efforts. Both are synchronistic. Both are the self steering you toward the life your ego could not plan. The ego wants comfort, certainty, control. The self wants wholeness, and wholeness requires the integration of light and dark, success and failure, expansion and contraction. The pattern in your relationships, have you noticed it? The people who resonate with you share a quality. They are also walking the hero's journey. They have faced their own underworlds. They speak the language of depth. Whereas the people who trigger you, who drain you, who seem to sabotage your progress, they are often stuck in unconscious patterns, projecting their unhealed wounds onto you. Jung would say you are experiencing the collective's resistance to consciousness. The collective unconscious contains not just archetypal wisdom, but archetypal inertia, the psychic weight of billions of humans repeating the same unconscious behaviors. When you individuate, you are swimming against that current, and the current will push back. This is why your friendships have become sparse, not because you are antisocial, but because you have outgrown the frequency of superficial connection. You can no longer engage in conversations that remain on the surface. You can no longer pretend to care about topics that feel hollow. This is not judgment, it is incompatibility. You have descended into the depths and most people are content to float. There is no moral superiority in depth, but there is a loneliness. The price of consciousness is isolation from the unconscious masses, yet synchronicity compensates. For every relationship you lose, the self brings a soul-level connection. These are not numerous. Jung himself said individuation attracts few, but finds the right few. These are the relationships where words are unnecessary, where presence is enough, where you can sit in silence and feel more understood than in hours of conversation with others. These synchronistic connections are not based on shared hobbies or proximity. They are based on shared depth, on mutual recognition of the archetypal journey. The signs you are ignoring, let us address those. You have intuitions that you dismiss because they contradict rational analysis. You feel a pull toward certain decisions that make no logical sense. You dream of scenarios that later unfold in waking life. Jung would say, this is the self attempting to guide the ego toward alignment. But the ego, trained in materialism and causality, rejects the guidance as irrational. And so you make decisions based on logic, and they lead to outcomes that feel hollow, even when they appear successful. Here is the practice Jung would prescribe: active imagination. Not passive reception of signs, but active dialogue with the unconscious. When a synchronicity occurs, do not just note it and move on. Sit with it. Ask, what is this trying to tell me? What is the emotional tone of this sign? Does it feel like confirmation or warning? Does it evoke expansion or contraction in my body? The body is the unconscious made visible. It knows before the mind knows. Trust the visceral response over the intellectual interpretation. You asked for a sign about whether to pursue a certain path. The sign came, a hawk circling overhead at the exact moment of your question. But instead of trusting it, you rationalized it. Hawks are common here, you told yourself. It means nothing. But Jung would ask, why did it appear at that exact moment? Why not 5 minutes earlier or later? Synchronicity is not about the appearance of the symbol. It is about the timing. The hawk is archetypal, the messenger between worlds, the bird of vision and predation. Its appearance at your moment of questioning is the self saying, you already know the answer. Stop seeking external validation. Trust your inner sight. But the most disturbing aspect of synchronicity is this: once you begin perceiving it, you cannot stop. The veil has thinned. You now live in two worlds simultaneously: the causal world of material transactions and the acausal world of meaningful patterns. This is disorienting. You will feel at times like you are losing your grip on consensus reality. You will question your sanity. You will wonder if you are inventing connections that do not exist. This is normal. This is the liminal phase of awakening, where the old worldview has dissolved, but the new one has not yet stabilized. Jung himself experienced this during his confrontation with the unconscious, the period he later called his creative illness. He saw visions, heard voices, felt the archetypal realm bleeding into his waking life. He did not pathologize it, he documented it, he dialogued with it. And from that descent emerged his most profound work. You are undergoing your own confrontation with the unconscious. The synchronicities are evidence that the boundary between your psyche and the world is thinning. This is not psychosis. It is initiation. Trust the signs, but do not become addicted to them. The ego can become inflated by synchronicity, interpreting every event as personally significant, believing itself to be the center of cosmic attention. This is spiritual narcissism, and it is as dangerous as materialism. The self uses synchronicity to guide, not to flatter. If a sign appears, honor it, act on it if appropriate, and then release it. Do not hoard signs like trophies. Do not build an identity around being the one who sees signs. The signs are not about you. They are about the process of becoming whole. Chapter 4. Individuation and the Return. The alchemical goal-chosen one, you have descended. You have endured the nigredo, the dissolution of the false self. You have confronted the shadow, integrated its power, faced the guilt and terror of claiming abundance. You have learned to read the synchronistic language of the self, to trust the invisible order beneath the chaos of appearances. And now, as wealth and recognition approach, you stand at the threshold of the final stage, the return. This is not a return to who you were before the journey. That person no longer exists. The descent has alchemically transformed you. The lead of survival consciousness has become the gold of abundant awareness. But this gold must be tested. It must be stabilized. And this is where most spiritual journeys collapse. Not in the descent, but in the integration. Not in the death, but in the rebirth. Because rebirth requires living differently, and living differently requires severing attachments to the old life, even when those attachments are comfortable. Jung called the final stage of individuation the conjunctio, the sacred marriage of opposites within the psyche. Masculine and feminine, conscious and unconscious, ego and self, spirit and matter. This is not a mental concept. It is a lived experience of wholeness, where the warring factions within you cease their conflict and cohere into a unified field of awareness. When this occurs, the outer world reflects the integration. Opportunities arise not through force, but through resonance. Wealth flows not because you chased it, but because you became the kind of person whose frequency attracts it. But let us be ruthlessly honest about what integration demands. It demands that you disappoint people. It demands that you say no to requests that once would have guilted you into compliance. It demands that you prioritize your energy, your time, your resources according to your calling, not according to others' expectations. This is why the return phase is often lonelier than the descent. In the descent, you had the sympathy of others. Oh, you are suffering, let me support you. But in the return, when you emerge powerful, whole, abundant, that sympathy evaporates. Now you are expected to give, to save, to prove that you're elever.